Polish strike on Ukraine. An official statement from the president. Kiev's reaction is already underway. The country promises to respond. Warsaw has declared what it calls a war against Banderism, using language that immediately set off alarms in both Ukraine and the international community. This declaration came alongside a controversial move. Poland's new president, Karol Nawrocki, vetoed a law that provided benefits for Ukrainian refugees who are not employed. The veto means that thousands of families could now lose financial support, including child allowances of about $200. And Nawrocki didn't stop there. In his statement, he demanded that Bandera symbols be equated in Polish law with Nazi and Soviet symbols. He framed it as a fight against Russian propaganda and a way to reset relations with Ukraine on true partnership and mutual respect. But the move has been met with outrage. Ukraine's foreign ministry has already signaled it is preparing an official response, warning that such politicized decisions could inflame tensions among Ukrainians. Inside Ukraine, anger is rising for different reasons. 2 men have died within a single week after encounters with mobilization centers known as TCCS. The first case comes from the Cherkasy region, where Yevgeny Kushner, the founder of a breakdancing school, was taken by officials despite holding a legal deferment. According to his relatives, he was healthy and living a normal life. Yet within a day of being mobilized, he was hospitalized in critical condition, beaten and broken. The TCC claims he tried to escape by jumping out of a moving vehicle. Family members reject this version, calling it an outright cover-up. The second case was reported by the mother of another man, this time in Rivne. She says her son was kept in the TCC for 3 days, and then the next time she saw him was in a morgue. The official explanation: sudden heart failure. No signs of violence, investigators say. But public trust tells a different story. Recent surveys show Ukrainians overwhelmingly support their armed forces almost unanimously. But when it comes to the TCCS, trust collapses. Barely 1 in 4 citizens believes in them, and distrust has only grown worse over the past year. For many, these mobilization centers have come to symbolize fear, abuse, and corruption rather than defense of the nation. And corruption is another storm brewing. 65% of Ukrainians believe that reconstruction funds are being stolen or mismanaged. 65% of Ukrainians believe that reconstruction funds are being stolen or mismanaged. Instead of cranes, construction sites, and rebuilding, citizens say they see shady deals, fake tenders, and missing money, and yet hope still exists. Some surveys show a small decline in public anxiety, but frustration remains the dominant mood. While domestic scandals deepen, Kiev also faces cultural battles. The Commissioner for the Protection of the State Language, Elena, is demanding that global platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube Music block Russian artists entirely. She argues it est not just about music, it est about protecting Ukraine, est information space from Russian influence. The government says legislation already gives them grounds to push global tech giants to comply. On the international front, former U.S. President Donald Trump entered the stage once again. He met with Vladimir Putin in Alaska, promising a breakthrough in the war negotiations. But the outcome was the opposite. International watchdogs confirmed this perception, warning that recovery is at risk of drowning in a swamp of corruption. According to the New York Times, the meeting was little more than a show. Lots of handshakes, bold declarations, but no substance. Trump himself admitted the talks went nowhere, blaming what he called a personal dislike between Putin and Zelenskyy. In his words, they just don't like each other. That's it. Back in Ukraine, that dislike has deadly implications. Nationalist activist Serhiy Sternenko told The Times that if Zelenskyy dares to cede territory in Donbass, he will be finished. First, politically, Sternenko warned, and then physically. Such statements reflect the rising pressure on the Ukrainian president. Pressure not only from Moscow but from within his own society. Which raises the question, who could come next? Many Azaron, former commander-in-chief, Valery Zelenskyy. Though he has never declared political ambitions, both inside and outside Ukraine, people increasingly see him as a future leader. His image is that of a tough, disciplined general who could rally the country with promises of sacrifice and survival. echoing Winston Churchill as famous blood, sweat, and tears. But Zelenskyy himself privately admits he isn't sure Ukrainians are ready for such hard truths. Meanwhile, eastern Ukraine faces a humanitarian disaster. Donetsk, under Russian control, is running out of water. Local residents recorded an urgent appeal to Putin, accusing their own authorities of betrayal and they blame years of neglect, dried reservoirs, and failed infrastructure. The official line blames the weather and Ukrainian sabotage, but residents aren't convinced. Amid all this, the Polish president's veto now threatens another lifeline. Starlink Internet for Ukraine, Poland's deputy prime minister called the move a gift for Putin, warning that cutting Ukraine's access to satellite internet would directly help Russia on the battlefield. And while politics dominate headlines, smaller stories also reveal the rising tensions. In Moscow, a Russian man was caught on video shouting at an Uzbek taxi driver, calling him a slave of the Russians. The footage quickly went viral, sparking outrage in both Russia and Uzbekistan. Many demand punishment for open xenophobia. Finally, a lighter but still surprising story from Germany. In Bavaria, a Romanian driver accidentally left his wife at a gas station. He drove nearly an hour before realizing she was missing, only because his 11-year-old son finally spoke up. The stranded woman, without a phone, had to borrow one from a bus driver to call her forgetful husband. So, what does all this tell us? Ukraine is under immense pressure, both from external enemies and internal crises. Poland's new stance could ignite a diplomatic firestorm. Corruption continues to erode public trust, and international negotiations are stalled by personal grudges at the very top. What do you think? Should Ukraine strike harder against corruption? Was Poland's decision an act of sovereignty or betrayal of its neighbor? And is Zelenskyy truly the next leader waiting in the wings? This was NT News. Longer, deeper, but still clear and direct about what the world is talking about. If you found this analysis valuable, leave a comment, hit like, and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next episode.